Hello, I'm Jeremy Gustafson, your independent m.l.a. candidate for Vancouver-Mount Pleasant. I decided to go with a casual look this time. I've only got one suit, and I didn't want to wear 2 videos in a row. I'm a big Noam Chomsky fan. If you don't know who he is, he's a world-renowned linguist. He's like an Einstein of words and language, and he's very critical of the Western media. You're not going to see him on TV because he's unable to give interviewers short 2-sentence answers. Sort of like the way I'm unable to give viewers short 2-minute videos. Noam's basic premise is a fascist government can use clubs and guns to control what the people do. Like in Syria, where over 60,000 people have died in the last 2 years fighting for their right to vote. Just saying. Anyway, a democratic government can't use clubs and guns to control what the people do, so they have to control how the people think. They do that by manipulating the media. I had trouble figuring that one out. How can the mainstream press be a player in the corporate domination of our political system when all they do is vilify politicians? It was a story in the Vancouver Sun that pushed me over the edge, made me get all activist and run for m.l.a. How could the Sun be supporting the system? Well, since I've been out in the street, campaigning, meeting the people, I've begun to get a glimmer of an idea. The press dupes you by convincing you not to vote. By constantly painting politicians as embezzlers and liars, the mainstream media has convinced you that you're in a completely hopeless situation. Your vote can't compete with the election buying power of major corporations, and the only way to get your foot in the door in politics yourself is by clawing your way through the ranks of a political party. None of this is true. Before 1903, there were no political parties in BC. Everybody ran as an independent. You can change the system, but there's no quick fixes. It's going to take a lot more than clicking like on a Facebook page. It's even going to take more than voting once in an election. But voting is an easy first step in the right direction. You can register to vote online with your driver's license at elections.bc.ca. You're probably sitting in front of a computer right now. Look, did you see the last Batman movie? There's a scene in it where there's a bunch of prisoners locked up for life, but they're not in a cell. Their prison is the bottom of a really deep pit. However, there's some stones set in the walls of the pit that you can climb. And if a prisoner is able to climb up out of the pit, they're able to go free. The catch is, the higher up you go, the farther apart the stones get. And if you make a mistake up near the top and miss a stone, well, then you fall to your death. The stones were an afterthought. They were added to the walls because it causes the prisoners more suffering if they have the tiniest little bit of hope. Originally, the pit had no stones in the walls, the prisoners had no hope, and with no hope, they ceased to care. That's where you're at now. The mainstream media has put you in the bottom of a pit with smooth, stone-free walls. You believe you have absolutely no hope at all of changing our corporate-dominated political system, and now you just don't care. Well, I'm telling you, there is hope. There are stones in the walls of your pit that you can crawl up to escape. In the Batman movie, a small child escapes from the pit, and if a small child can do it, you can do it too. Metaphorically, I mean, small children aren't allowed to vote. I'm not going to lie to you. If you do vote for me on May 14th, your vote isn't completely worthless, but it ain't worth much. Think of it as climbing up on the lowest stone at the bottom of the pit. A stone so low, I could reach it without getting out of this chair. That's what your vote's worth. You'll barely notice the difference it makes, but it will make a tiny difference. Remember, there's no quick fixes. However, I don't need to win to make your vote count. I just need to get enough votes to make it perfectly clear that the people have had enough with our corporate-dominated two-party system. 2,000 votes ought to do it. There's over 20,000 registered voters that didn't vote in Mount Pleasant in the last election. I just need 10% of them, starting with you. And then next election, a bunch more people will run as independents. And the one after that, they'll start to win. And then the system will finally begin to change. However, if you still think voting won't make a difference, all I can guarantee you is not voting will even more definitely not make a difference, so you really got nothing to lose. One thing is certain, it's always better to do something than do nothing, so May 14th, please get out and vote. Thanks for watching.
For God's sake, give more justice to